Okay, this is something different I'll be doing probably at the end of each month. I just want to talk about recent releases of that month. So, with this one, let's talk about some releases that came out in November 2020. First, of course, we have to talk about manga, and specifically, horror manga. There have been some pretty interesting releases. The third volume of Blood on the Tracks was released. Now, this has been a series that I want to do a video of in the future after it's completed. I don't really want to talk about anything in this manga yet, and it's something you should go into without any spoilers. But people have hyped this up way too much, and you shouldn't expect a typical horror manga. I find it much more like a thriller and drama. It has themes that I find very relatable, unlike a lot of the sort of Eroguro that I'm used to. It's not complete yet, and I've loved it so far, so if you haven't read this one yet, try to get your hands on it. One interesting release that wasn't something I thought I would like is Sadako at the End of the World. It looks very cutesy, and that's not something I'm usually into, but it has Sadako, and you know her from the Ring series. It's no masterpiece, but it's a fun read about these sisters in a dystopian future, and they find a TV and a movie where Sadako comes from, but there's no one for her to curse, so it's sort of a light-hearted relationship. Fun, interesting read, but don't expect anything more than that. The Mermaid Saga was released in the West, Volume 1. It's an older manga by Rumiko Takahashi, you know of Ranma fame. I say she's popular from Ranma, but perhaps she's most known for Inuyasha. She has a very distinct art style, and I love when manga artists have that. You can tell them apart from the others out there. It's not heavy in the horror department, but it is a classic, so check it out. Alright, so one release. It's an older one, but it was recently released here in the West again, that I want to talk about is Urosuki Doji, Legend of the Overfiend. Now, a lot of people will take a look at something like Shoujo Tsubaki and call that perverse and demented, but take a look at this one, alright? It's from the 80s, and of course everything back then was much more extreme. I kind of miss it sometimes, but Toshio Maeda isn't exactly Eroguro artist, but a more self-proclaimed perverted artist. Kind of like gore porn. You know, there is a distinction between that and Eroguro, which I don't think a lot of people realize. I made a video earlier this month about the recent interest in Shoujo Tsubaki, and I deleted it because it didn't turn out the way I intended it to, and a lot of people in the comments kind of let me know that. It's a subject that's very personal to me, and I really want to give it the respect it deserves, so I'll make a video specifically on the manga. I don't really care about the anime adaptation, but Maro's manga is something I really want to make a great video about in the future. When it comes to him, the next subject I'm going to make a video about is the Laughing Vampire, which I plan to release in December. This was a big month for video games. We had the release of the Xbox Series X and S and the PlayStation 5. I didn't get my hands on either of these consoles, and I'm going to wait until next year when you'll be able to actually find one without paying ridiculous eBay prices. And also, they were just released, and there's really nothing that I want to play. Demon Souls, of course, looks interesting. It's a game my brother loved back on the PlayStation 3, and I never played it, but I would give it a try. Yakuza is always fun, of course. A lot of people were giving Tetris a hard time when that was revealed. I don't think these people ever played Tetris Effect on PlayStation 4 because that game is amazing. It's one of the best PlayStation 4 VR games ever. So playing a sort of sequel or expansion to that would probably be the one I would look forward to most. But it's Tetris Effect by Tetsuya Mizuguchi, and if you don't know who he is, you should do some research. There was a big Capcom leak, and I don't know if it's real or not, but if it is real, I mean, it sucks for Capcom. That's like 5 years of plans leaked. And there's definitely some interesting choices. I saw a remake of Power Stone on that list. I loved Power Stone 1 and 2 back on Dreamcast, so I'd really look forward to that. Resident Evil 4 remake, I can totally see that happening. And the rumor is it's going to be VR, which I'm kind of conflicted about. It would be cool, but in VR you need that first person view, and Resident Evil 4 was the game that really put the over the shoulder camera angle on the map. So you're taking out a major element of that game in favor of VR, but who knows what they're going to do with that. I beat 13 Sentinels. To me, that's probably the most underrated game of the year. Hardly anyone talks about it, which is surprising because Vanillaware has put out some awesome games in the past. Odin Sphere, Muramasa the Demon Blade. This one was a bit different because there's more emphasis on story. It's kind of like a visual novel. It's a love letter to science fiction. But then there's also elements of a real-time strategy game. It's a great blend, and seriously, it's a work of art. Check it out. But another game I've been really enjoying is Sakuna of Rice and Ruin. It's a 2D platforming game, kind of like Goemon and the aforementioned Muramasa, but it's also a rice farming simulator. I mean, it's a hardcore rice farming game. It sounds funny, but there's a repetitive nature that just works, and it's addicting. So what else can we say about November 2020? Burst City was released on Blu-ray. For people not familiar with that, it's an old 80s sort of punk movie, kind of a sort of proto-cyberpunk film. It's really an early example of that genre. A dystopian-like future full of anarchy. There's a plot to it, but it's kind of just a fun look at the Japanese punk scene at the time with bands like The Stalin.